So I picked this video from the House of Cards that really speaks to me, that talks about the real religion and politics. And I think I'm just gonna let you watch it and then we'll further have a discussion on it.
There are two laws we have to remember above all else. He tells us to love God and to love each other. You can't love the people you kill. You sure as hell can. And you have to love the people who are trying to kill you. Jesus loved the Romans. Father, forgive them, he said, for they know not what they do. Why didn't he fight? Why did he allow himself to be sacrificed? I ask myself that question a lot. I understand the Old Testament God, whose power is absolute, who rules through fear, but him. There's no such thing as absolute power for us, except on the receiving end. Using fear will get you nowhere. It's not your job to determine what's just. It's not your place to choose the version of God you like best. It's not your duty to serve this country alone, and it better not be your goal to simply serve yourself. You serve the Lord, and through him you serve others. Two rules: love God, love each other. Period. You aren't chosen, Mr. President. Only he was.
I think the point the video is making is, given the challenges of power, you do need a clear sense of that ultimate good, or else the desire for power will lead you to only serve yourself, or in the case of Frank, to use fear. And the priest cautions him, to focus on love, because that's everything else will be destructive. And but I think that for many people who are not just politicians, but even just in the world is so competitive, it's easy to forget the selflessness that love demands.
There's also a line that, so considering the founding of America, the 13th colony, I know that some of the religious groups claim in the beginning of the founding, and then they settled around Massachusetts, which kind of plays a role that U.S. is founded based on religion, but also with the Mayflower Compact, with all these restraining power. What do you think is a good balance for the current U.S. for both having religion and politics?
Well, there were definitely the Pilgrims were part of the early narrative, the story we tell ourselves in the United States, but so were the Dutch in New York, who were not so extremist in terms of their religious views and were much more focused on business. And so were the English who went to Virginia, who were not Puritans. They were Anglicans and much more flexible. So all of that is in the tradition. And even Jefferson had a copy of the Quran and made his own and even wrote his own interpretation of the Bible. So our history has many threads, and not just biblical. And over time, you see about every 30 years, you see a spike in religious fervor in the United States. It's sort of a historical trend. So I think it's just, we call ourselves an experiment, the American experiment, and it's part of our experiment of figuring it out, because we're still a young country.
In the 13 colonies, some were founded for religious reasons, but some weren't, so it was kind of a mix. When the Constitution was written in 1787, one important doctrine in the Constitution is the separation of church and state. That was something that Thomas Jefferson believed in really strongly. So we have key parts of our Constitution, like the First Amendment, protect freedom of religion, so that the government cannot legislate one type of religion that everybody has to follow or everyone has to believe in. So from the beginning of, not the colonial period really, because in Massachusetts and other New England colonies, there were a lot of religious establishment of religion in the colonial period, but as soon as the United States was founded, it was founded on this separation of church and state. So that's a key difference between the United States and some other countries that are also democracies. So there's more church attendance, there's more religious believers in the United States than anywhere in Europe, I believe, and pretty much anywhere in the developed world. There are some parts of the developing world where religion is stronger and there's more belief, but the United States is one of the most highly religious countries. Part of the reason for that, I think, and people have studied it, is that the fact that the government doesn't establish one religion or choose or support one religion, and it allows people to pursue whatever religion, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholicism, that allows more freedom, and it allows people to pursue whichever religion they want. So that there is a lot of religion in American society, but you're right, there's not religion in American government, and that's the design of the Founding Fathers in the Constitution was to separate religion from the government.